If planning your Hawaii trip feels like a mess of tabs, open lists, and conflicting tips, you're definitely not alone. Most people don't realize how overwhelming Hawaii planning can get until they're in the middle of it. You start with this excitement, you're going to Hawaii, and then you're comparing hotel reviews, reading contradictory advice, and second-guessing every decision. Today, I'm going to help you cut through all of that noise on this episode of Hawaii's Best. Welcome to Hawaii's Best, a podcast helping you plan an unforgettable Hawaii vacation with practical tips. My name is Bryan, and I'm the owner and host of Hawaii's Best Travel. Thank you so much for joining me. If this is your first time, welcome. If you've been here for a while, welcome back. And if the planning part of your Hawaii trip has felt stressful, you're not alone. This episode is for you. Hawaii is different than many other destinations. The rhythm is slower, especially if you're coming from the continental U.S. The logistics are more layered, a bit more complex, and the planning can be a bit trickier, but that doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong with your planning. But a few simple shifts can make the whole process feel a lot easier, a lot more exciting, more doable, and today we're going to help you get that focus. I'm going to be talking about the top 5 most common mistakes I see time and time again people make when planning their trip to Hawaii, especially for the first time. These mistakes show up almost every conversation I have with travelers, and avoiding them makes a huge difference in how your trip feels, not just during the planning phase, but actually once you're in Hawaii. So let's start with number 1, and that's probably the most common, is information overload. Most people start planning by opening a bunch of blogs, reels, TikToks, and those, quote, perfect itinerary posts. And before long, you're 20 tabs deep and unsure what's actually right for their trip, second guessing a lot of things. You know, if you got one blog saying you need to spend 10 days on Maui and another saying 3 is plenty, someone's raving about a hidden beach while someone's warning you, don't go to that beach. That's not right. You're not supposed to be there. You might get in trouble. The problem isn't a lack of information. It's too much of it. And a lot of it isn't island specific. It's not current, or it isn't realistic for the way most people actually travel. And here's a simple fix to that is cut down on your sources. Pick a couple of reliable guides or voices that stay current with Hawaii and understand the nuances of each island and build from there. You don't need 50 options, all the tabs. You just need 2 or 3 good ones that align with your travel style. And honestly, I hope that Hawaii's Best, myself, we fit your vibe and your style. We're one of those trusted voices for you. Mistake number 2 kind of goes with mistake number 1. It's conflicting advice. You got stuff like, you got to do the road to Hana. No, don't do the road to Hana. Book everything ahead. Just wing it. Skip the luau. The luau is a must. What are you talking about? It's no wonder why people get stuck and feel stuck. And a lot of advice online is based on someone else's travel style, not specifically your travel style for you and your family. What works for a solo traveler with no kids, no schedule, doesn't necessarily work for a family with young ones who needs to manage the nap. Now, what works for someone chasing adventure also doesn't work for someone who wants just to relax and chill. The key is matching your plans to your pace, not someone else's to-do list and someone else's highlight reel, someone else's itinerary. If you're not a sunrise person, don't plan a 5 a.m. hike just because it's popular, just to get the photo. If you love structure, don't force yourself to go with the flow because someone said that's the Hawaii way. You just got to go with the flow. Your trip should fit you and your family. Those are the memories that you're building. That's what really matters. A couple quick fixes is it's more of a mindset shift. It's just to take a breath and ask yourself those questions. What do you and your family want from this trip? Are you wanting to do all the adventure and stuff, or are you wanting to pull back? You want to breathe, you want to break. You can definitely do both, but it's just important to understand what you want for this trip. And some of our trips have been all in, every day booked and planned. That's the rarity for us, honestly. A lot of our trips, we kind of just go with the flow. We have a few things on our list that we each want to do, and we make sure we get those. But ask yourself, what does your family need? What do you need for this trip? Not just to be self-serving, like I'm just going to take this trip for myself and I'm not going to give back. Obviously, that's not the intent of that question. The intent is how you plan. How are you going to plan this trip? And as I'm talking, if a lot of this is feeling familiar and if you've been stuck in that loop for, too much information and not enough clarity, these are the exact things that I do help people fix in one-on-one planning sessions. And I'll share a little bit about that later because this is something that I just officially launched. I'm really excited about it. So maybe it might be helpful for you. Number 3 is unrealistic itineraries. A lot of the sample itinerary days online, they look great on paper, but they really fall apart in real life. A lot of them don't anticipate or include drive times, parking, weather, trail closures, and just a general pace of Hawaii aren't factored in. And honestly, there's a lot of traffic on Oahu that surprises a lot of people. And most first-time visitors, they try to stack too much into a single day. I see itineraries that have, sunrise at Haleakala, breakfast at Paia, snorkeling at Molokini, lunch in Wailea, and sunset at a beach on the west side. That's not a day. That's like a marathon. That's maybe 2 or 3 days right there. And the fix for this is pretty simple. Choose one anchor activity for the day, be it a hike, a beach, a major scenic drive, and then build around that. Everything else is a bonus. Maybe you do the hike in the morning and grab lunch nearby, spend the afternoon at a beach close by, and that's really a full day. That's a good day right there. That gives you time to breathe. It gives you time to connect with people as you go about your travel, to connect with locals, to connect with Hawaiians, and not just be so rushed getting to the next thing. So when you keep your days realistic, the whole trip, it just honestly feels better. You're not rushing. You're not stressed. For the most part, stress does happen. Unexpected things do come up. This happens on vacation. But you actually get to enjoy where you are by just choosing one anchor activity for the day. Mistake number 4 is cultural missteps. This usually isn't intentional. I know my first few visits to Hawaii, these weren't intentional by any means. It's just lack of understanding or lack of knowledge, honestly. People just don't know what's off limits sometimes or what's disrespectful or what the local perspective is until they're already there on island. Some of the most shared spots online, the ones with millions of views, honestly shouldn't be accessed at all. They're on private land, they're sacred sites, or they've been closed for a while to protect the environment. But because they look beautiful and someone posted about it, visitors often assume it's fine. I saw it on Instagram. The fix is simple. Stick to legal, maintained trails and beaches. Pay attention to signs, even if the signs are handwritten. They're there for a reason. If a gate is closed or a sign says kapu, that means forbidden, sacred, respect, keep out. And honestly, when in doubt, choose what honors the place and people who live there. It's okay to ask questions. That's not just about being a good visitor. It's about protecting Hawaii for future generations. It's something that we're all entrusted with when we visit. And number 5, probably another big one, is trying to make everyone happy, especially if you're going with a large group, especially if you're doing a multi-generational trip, which we pretty much always do. Families travel at different speeds. Someone wants to hike, someone wants to relax, someone wants to go to the pool, someone wants to go to the beach, someone wants adventure, someone just wants to be left alone. And when you try to cram everything in to please everyone, you end up burning a lot of people out and yourself along the way. And honestly, usually no one ends up happy and it just becomes like, why are we even here? Those moments. So I've talked to parents who plan every hour, every day to make sure their kids, their spouse, and their in-laws all got what they wanted. But by day 3, everyone was exhausted and kind of just ripped up the itinerary and like, we just need a break. That happens a lot. But the better approach is leave space in your days. Think slower mornings, open your afternoons up, build in some downtime, let people split up for an afternoon if they want to do different things. You can enjoy more, argue less, and everyone gets a little of what they came for. One of the questions we always ask our girls, we have 3 girls, what are your top 1 to 2 things you want to do for this trip? So having that ahead of time is important to know, getting them involved in the planning process and having them understand all this research you've been doing, helping them understand, what are those drive times? And if you're trying to do this all on your own, it can feel overwhelming for sure. So getting your family involved with the planning process is definitely encouraged and can help save some of those headaches when you're actually there in Hawaii. All of these mistakes are super common. I see them every week in my DMs at hawaiis.best, in emails, and none of this means you're doing anything wrong. Hawaii has its own rhythm. It's not like you're planning a trip to a city where everything is close and runs on a tight schedule. The islands move slower, and each island has its own pace. Oahu feels completely different than Kauai and vice versa. And the distances are deceptive. We're on an island, it's small, but you'd be surprised how long it can take to get from Kona over to Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. And the weather can change by the hour, definitely depends on which side of the island you're on. But when your plan matches that rhythm, your pace, your style, your family, everything feels easier and more enjoyable. And the memories are cherished, I think, a bit more sweeter and not like, oh, yeah, I remember that. The picture's nice, but remember the fight that we had getting up there because we were running late? It's to help minimize those stressful moments. So if you want help building a Hawaii trip that fits your pace, your family's pace, and cuts through all the noise, I now offer one-on-one planning sessions. No upsells, no commissions. I don't hand you over to a travel agent. I'm not a travel agent. Just simple, honest guidance that is personalized for you based on what actually works. To take a look at the sessions I offer, you can go to the first link in the show notes below. And if you have a question about that, I give you my personal email at the bottom of that page where you can reach out to me with any of your questions. We'll walk through your plan together, your dates, your island, your travel style, and make sure it actually works for your trip. Not someone else's version of Hawaii, but the trip for you. All right, that's all I have for you today. Thanks so much for hanging out and being here. I hope that this has been helpful and maybe taken away some of the stress in your planning, or at least given you a clearer sense of what to focus on and what to do next and where to go. And until next time, as always, live with aloha. Mahalo for listening to this episode of Hawaii's Best. To stay up to date on future episodes, hit follow on your podcast app. Hawaii's Best is a production of Shorebreak Media Group with editing by Easy Podcast Solutions and music courtesy of our friends Stick Figure.